In 1973, a man in the American South was diagnosed with terminal cancer. His doctor gave him a few months to live. He went home, started declining, and a few weeks later, he was dead. But when the autopsy came back, something strange happened. The tumor was tiny, almost harmless, nowhere near advanced enough to kill him. So what killed him? His belief that he was going to die. This isn't a ghost story. It's a documented medical phenomenon. And it has a name. The nocebo effect. And once you understand how it works, you'll never think about your mind and your body the same way again. Most people have heard of the placebo effect. You take a sugar pill, someone tells you it's medicine, and you actually start feeling better. The placebo effect is real. It's been measured thousands of times in clinical trials. Your brain releases actual neurotransmitters. Your immune system responds. Real, measurable biological changes happen just because you believed something would help you. But the placebo effect has a dark mirror. If your brain can heal you through belief, it can also hurt you through belief. That's the nocebo effect. Nocebo comes from the Latin word meaning I will harm. And that's exactly what it does. When you believe something will hurt you, your body often makes it happen. Not metaphorically, not psychosomatically in some vague, dismissible sense. Literally, chemically, physiologically. Your nervous system, your immune system, your pain pathways, all of them respond to what you expect to feel, not just what's actually happening to your body. Here's how it works inside your brain. Your nervous system is always making predictions. Every second of every day, your brain is running a model of the world, trying to anticipate what's coming before it actually arrives. This is incredibly useful for survival. If your brain had to wait for danger to happen before it reacted, you'd already be dead. So instead, it predicts. And your perception of your own body works the same way. When you expect pain, your brain starts preparing for pain. It activates pain processing circuits. It modulates your perception threshold. It changes the chemical environment in your nervous system, increasing the concentration of substances like cholecystokinin that amplify pain signals. And then, when the stimulus arrives, even a mild one, it hits a nervous system that's already primed to feel it as severe. You aren't imagining the pain. The pain is real. But your expectation made it worse than it would have been without the belief. This is why nocebo effects show up so consistently in drug trials. When researchers tell participants what side effects to expect, those participants experience those side effects, even when they're given an inert placebo pill with no active ingredient at all. Nausea, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, heart palpitations, all from a sugar pill, all from the expectation. Let's look at some of the evidence because this is not fringe science. In a landmark study, patients who were told their chemotherapy might cause hair loss, lost hair, even when the drug they were given didn't cause hair loss at all. In another study, patients undergoing knee surgery who were told the procedure would be painful needed significantly more painkillers afterward than patients given neutral information, even though both groups had the same surgical procedure. In clinical drug trials across multiple conditions, between 4% and 26% of patients in the placebo group drop out of the study because of side effects they experience from a pill that contains no medicine. And in some cases, the nocebo effect can be fatal. There are documented cases of people who were incorrectly told they had terminal diagnoses and died on the predicted timeline, with autopsies showing the disease wasn't actually advanced enough to kill them. There are cases of people in cultures that practice ritual curses who literally died after being cursed by a figure of authority in their community. These people were not weak or gullible or mentally ill. They were ordinary people whose beliefs triggered real physiological cascades that ended their lives. Now you might be wondering, why would evolution build a system that can hurt you just because you think you're going to be hurt? It's a fair question. And the answer is that the nocebo effect isn't a design flaw. It's a side effect of a feature that's actually very useful. Prediction is one of the most important things your nervous system does. An animal that can anticipate danger and prepare for it before it arrives survives better than one that can only react after the fact. The ability to learn from warning signals, to see a snake and immediately prepare your pain response before the snake actually bites, is a survival advantage. But when that predictive system receives false information, when it's told that a harmless pill is dangerous or that a mild disease is terminal, it prepares for a threat that isn't actually there, and the preparation itself becomes the harm. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a vividly believed one. It can only respond to the information it has. Here's where this gets personal, because nocebo isn't just something that happens in clinical trials. It happens in your everyday life in ways you almost certainly don't notice. Every time you read the side effects list on a medication and then experience those side effects, that's nocebo. Every time a doctor tells you that you'll feel some pain during a procedure and you feel more pain than you otherwise would, that's nocebo. Every time you go online, diagnose yourself with something terrifying and start feeling the symptoms, that's nocebo. Cyberchondria, the experience of developing symptoms after reading about diseases online, is one of the most widespread nocebo phenomena in the modern world. And it's getting worse because information about disease has never been more available, more alarming, or more detailed. Every symptom you read about, every worst-case scenario you visualize, every dire Reddit thread about side effects you're about to experience, your brain is taking notes, and it's preparing accordingly. This also has enormous implications for medicine, and they're uncomfortable ones. Because the way doctors communicate with patients has nocebo effects. When a doctor delivers a diagnosis in a grave tone, the patient's prognosis gets worse. When a doctor lists every possible side effect of a drug in exhaustive detail, which is legally required in many countries, the patient is more likely to experience those effects. When a patient is told, "This is going to hurt a lot," it hurts more than when the same procedure is performed with neutral or positive framing. This puts doctors in an almost impossible position. They're legally obligated to disclose risks. But disclosing risks causes nocebo effects that worsen outcomes. Some researchers have argued that the way informed consent is currently practiced actually harms patients. That we need to rethink how we communicate about risk, not just whether to communicate it. And this debate is not resolved. There's no clean answer. The ethics of what to tell patients and how is one of the most genuinely difficult problems in modern medicine. Let's go back to the man from 1973 for a moment. His doctor believed he was delivering an accurate diagnosis. He wasn't trying to harm him. He was trying to prepare him. But the information itself, delivered with the authority of a physician in the language of certainty, became a kind of sentence, and the patient's nervous system carried it out. This is why the nocebo effect is so philosophically disturbing. It reveals something about the relationship between belief and reality that most of us prefer not to think about too carefully. Your body is not a passive vehicle that your mind rides around in. It's a system that is constantly being shaped by what you expect, what you fear, and what you believe. The boundary between the physical and the psychological, which we work very hard to maintain in Western medicine, is much more porous than we're comfortable admitting. The good news, if you can call it that, is that knowing about the nocebo effect gives you some power over it. Not complete power. Expectations that run deep, that come from authority figures, or from repeated exposure, or from cultural conditioning, are very hard to overwrite consciously. But awareness matters. When you read a side effects list, you can remind yourself that reading about effects primes you to feel them. When you're about to have a painful procedure, you can choose the framing you bring to it. Research shows that even small reframes, focusing on what you'll gain rather than what you'll endure, measurably reduce the nocebo response. When you find yourself in a spiral of medical anxiety online, you can recognize that the spiral itself is making you feel worse, not just psychologically, but physically. And if you're ever in a position to influence someone else's health, as a parent, a partner, a caregiver, a doctor, the words you choose and the certainty you project have consequences that go beyond communication. They shape biology. There's a quote from the physician Howard Brody that I keep thinking about. He said, "The most powerful therapeutic tool that the physician has is his or her own person. Not the drug, not the procedure, the person, the expectation they create, the belief they install. The nocebo effect is the shadow version of that truth. The most powerful harmful tool a physician, or a parent, or a culture, or an algorithm Has is also themselves, their presence, their certainty, the expectations they plant. You've been shaped by thousands of these planted expectations throughout your life. Some of them are helping you, some of them are hurting you, and the only way to start sorting them out is to know they're there. That's the nocebo effect. Not magic, not superstition, not something that only happens to other people. A real, documented, physiological mechanism built into the same nervous system that's processing these words right now. Your brain is always making predictions about your body. The question is, what have you taught it to predict?